Did you know that it's End Drug Abuse Day and also Torture Victims Day?
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Long Lost Podcast. This week, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 16, Outlaws. My name is Lyra. And there's someone else with me, also.
I'm here, too. It's Lana. It's me. It's Lana. Lana is here.
Thanks, Lana.
Just keeping you on your toes.
You successfully have done that. I'm very on my toes right now.
Yeah, gotta keep it fresh.
God, keeping people on their toes. You know, kids really love to, hide and then scare their friends.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a thing, that is so not cool, especially for adults, you know? But it's just, this natural impulse that kids have. I don't know why it's a thing that they like to do.
I mean, I assume it's evolutionary. It's like cats playing and trying to sneak up on their mom to learn to
I guess.
hunt. I assume it's
yeah.
learning the skill of hiding from a threat or whatever in a playful way. I assume that's what it is.
I guess you're right. I wonder if that is what's going on there. That it's a natural... Because, that's, why we like running around and stuff.
And playing tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hated tag as a kid because the thing about tag is there's one skill, which is running fast. And if you're not good at that skill, you just lose.
Well, yes, but I was good at running fast. So...
Since I, couldn't run fast, I remember I would fake injuries if I was it so that people would come over to check on me and then I would tag them and run away.
See, that's another skill then. You've got deceit.
Yeah, but then people would say I'm cheating.
Yeah, well,
but it's
you were cheating, but...
Is that cheating? I mean, is that outside the rules of tag?
Here's how I look at it. Yes, it is cheating, but...
Uh-huh.
I think of it like war crimes, right? It's cheating, and war crimes are war crimes, but at the same time, you're trying to win. You gotta get dirty and do whatever you need to do to win.
Okay, so you're pro-war crimes, is what
Basically,
you're saying.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think the war crimes analogy is stretching it a little bit, but I get what you're saying.
You too.
I thought you were going to be it's like cheating. It's like war crimes in that it might be against the rules, but nobody is actually going to enforce the rules.
That too, yeah.
The other kids can be that's cheating, and I'll just be whatever, I just got your ass.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Bitch.
Yeah, you're it now. I'm not it. I tagged you.
So, let's see. How am I doing? I'm very tired, but it'll be okay. So,
love that.
Monday, I went to work, and then I came home, and I hadn't started the edit for Tuesday yet, because I'm dumb, and then I just did that as soon as I got home, and then I went to bed. And then on Tuesday, which was, I suppose, yesterday... Somebody asked me if I wanted to go to the beach after work, and I was like, yeah, I want to go to the beach. So yesterday, I went to work, and I came home and just immediately ate and showered. And then I was at the beach all day, and then didn't get back until 11-ish or some shit, and didn't go to bed until midnight, and then slept for 5 hours, and then went to work all day. And then I had to come home and fucking eat real quick so I could watch this episode of Lost so we could talk about it. So basically, I feel like I haven't sat down since Sunday.
Nice. Well, you're sitting down now, sort of.
Yeah. Except I had to close the windows because otherwise it's too loud, and it's fucking hot.
That's fucked up. That is really fucked up.
It's okay. We'll make do. How are you?
How am I? I'm okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm living.
Yeah, all right.
I'm alive.
Sense. Yeah.
I'm not on a jungle island where I have to face manifestations of my past, or maybe not, and it's a coincidence, and I'm projecting myself onto it, or maybe not, and it's literal.
Yeah.
So I don't have to deal with that. So that's one cool thing about my life.
All right. Speaking of Lost season 1, episode 16, Outlaws.
Oh yeah.
Your wish last podcast episode for this episode was a good episode.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got that?
Honestly, yeah, I like this episode.
Holy shit. This episode was actually good, right?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was quite good.
Particularly because I watched it twice, and rewatching it, I was like, Yeah, there's a couple of dumb little things.
Yeah, there's some dumb stuff.
That's to be expected, but like it was pretty good.
And not just for me at least, it wasn't good like in terms of on the Lost scale of like, well, I guess for what I've been watching, I'll take that. Like I was actually like, oh, this is actually like good. Good.
Yeah, there's like some scenes that I think are really well written, and there's some scenes they really give a lot of room to breathe, and I think that works super well because like all of those scenes for the most part are like really good.
I very agree. Do you know who wrote this episode?
No.
It was written by Drew Goddard, who wrote Cloverfield, wrote World War Z, wrote The Martian, co-wrote Cabin in the Woods, and is the creator behind Daredevil.
Okay, so a mixed record, I would say.
I would say mixed record, but also like a record with positive things in it. Like somebody who clearly can actually like write well, like has that in them.
Yes. They did a good one in this one.
Yeah. No, I thought it was
So, yeah, let's fucking get into it. We have a previously on which like hits us with both reminds us of Sawyer's backstory and briefly about Jack's like relationship with his dad and how he got his dad in trouble or whatever.
I wish we hadn't gotten that. I wish we hadn't gotten Jack's dad in the flashback or in the previously on.
Yeah, it's kind of like because then you're like, why is that relevant? And then it's less surprising when it comes up later in the episode. Yeah. But that leads us into our cold open, which is like a really intense opening scene. Yeah. We see a child, it's this little kid, and he's like in his bedroom, and his mom's like, okay, hide under the bed. There's like banging outside, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And the mom's like, hide under the bed. It's really important. You don't come out no matter what happens. And the kid hides, and the mom shuts the door to the room and goes out. Then you hear like yelling and arguing, and then like bang, and the woman's screaming voice stops, and then somebody opens the door and walks in with cowboy boots and sits down on the kid's bed, and the kid's all freaked out and shit. And then bang, and the person sitting on the bed slumps over dead.
Good old domestic murder suicide.
Yeah, really intense opening.
Yeah, it really was.
And then this is Sawyer's memory, like he wakes up from this flashback. This is a really intense opening scene. What do you think of this shit as a way to start the episode?
I don't know how much I have to say about it. Like a lot of the flashbacks, it worked. Sometimes they'll try to be serious, and then it's just like kind of goofy because they do it bad. I thought this worked, and it was very intense and like oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah, totally.
It was a good. I was realizing, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes into the episode that I was really into the episode and liking it, and I think it was a good way to start the episode because it gets you engaged immediately and quickly.
Yeah.
And that's been a struggle with this show, I think. Even episodes I've liked have been like, I was kind of like iffy on them for a good 10, 15 minutes. And then I was like, oh, this is getting somewhere. Whereas this one, I feel like started off strong and kind of kept it up the whole way.
It's also like an effective way of reminding us of a piece of information because it's like actually showing. It's like something that we've heard about, but it's like, okay, now we're actually seeing it, right?
It makes it more than just a piece of information. Like, to Sawyer, That's not a piece of information about Sawyer's backstory. That's, like, his life, and that helps us get into that frame of mind.
Totally. And that it's, like, an actual, like, trauma.
Yeah, instead of just being told, like, oh, he's got this dark past, we're a terrible thing. And I think it's a good use of a flashback, which they have struggled with using them effectively for good purposes, and I think it actually does help here.
Yeah, this episode's interesting because I would almost say that the A-plot is the flashback.
Yeah, the flashbacks, I remember last episode I was saying that they really should have cut down on the time spent on the flashbacks because it was messing with the pace and it wasn't that important and it just was not good. This one, cutting to the flashbacks, you never felt that thing. You feel a lot in the show where it's like, oh, okay, let's take a break from being engaged and giving a shit to go see this dumbass flashback. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, it's the flashbacks, I think, are well used to a purpose and, yeah, strong on their own also.
The story in the flashback is, like, actually, like, you're like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah, what is going to, like, there's tension and question about which way it'll go.
Yeah, which is cool. But before we get to the next flashback, So Sawyer wakes up. He's in his tent on the island, and there's like sounds and shit. And he reaches for a flashlight and turns it on, and there's just like a boar in his tent. And then Sawyer like hits the boar with a stick, and the boar like runs off with his tent like draped on it. And Sawyer's like chasing after the boar, trying to get his tent back.
It's a very funny
But the
image.
boar just like it's pretty funny. Him like running full speed.
Yeah. Shirtless.
Yeah, whole hog after the hog. And it's just like, what? He runs into the jungle, and the boar has disappeared. But then Sawyer, it's the middle of the night, and he hears whispers.
This is great.
Just like Saeed did. And it's like, oh shit.
It's great. Also, did you notice what there wasn't in this entire opening sequence with the flashback and this part? What
was there not?
What element of television was absent?
I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Is it going to be music?
Yeah.
Is there no music in the opening even?
I don't think so. Is there?
There is. It's just very subtle.
That's good then.
Subtle.
I didn't even notice it. How good is that?
Yeah, it's probably because it's like you were actually experiencing the emotion of what was happening rather than like the music being like, be scared or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely noticed all of the jungle noises with no music when he is chasing the boar into the jungle at night.
Yeah.
It's great. It makes everything feel more tense and more real. It's a good feeling for me. I like it.
Yeah, you're also like kind of getting Sawyer's perspective more, right? Of like the quiet and then like hearing these. It's like, wait, what is he hearing even? It's also a great cold open because we don't even fully realize it, but it's like setting up the whole episode basically, right? Which is what a cold open should do. But it's pretty cool. Then this next scene is also really good. So like it's the morning. Sawyer's trying to like collect all the stuff that got strewn everywhere because of the boar. And basically Saeed walks over and is just like, boar fucked up your shit, huh? And Sawyer's like, yeah, it fucked up my shit. And Saeed's like, and it took your tent. And Sawyer's like, you were having fun with this, aren't you?
You enjoying yourself? Yes.
It's great. It's actually really great.
Yeah, it's really good. And Saeed is just like, he smiles and he's like, yeah, I'm like.
Yeah, there's a few moments like that there's a few moments like that where you get characters. God, this episode was actually so good.
Yeah.
You get characters
it's a good one.
Who are strong characters and are being acted very well. And they get to interact with each other. And it works. It really works.
I like that this is setting up that, like, these two characters still have antagonism between them, but it's also becoming more of a, like, playful antagonism. Like, they're not necessarily fucking hating each other like they did earlier on.
Well, and there's I really thought it was good. So he calls Saeed Muhammad at one point doing this, right? When they're like arguing or whatever.
Yeah, he's doing his normal racist thing.
And then Saeed goes to walk away, and he calls after him to ask him about the whispers, and he says, Saeed. And that really works for me to show that it's a very good shorthand for Sawyer acknowledging, basically, implicitly, that his bullshit is bullshit in a way.
Yeah.
Which does not make it cool, but that he and Saeed are capable at this point of addressing each other and speaking to each other cooperatively.
Yeah, it's like a little moment of growth.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, Sawyer asks Saeed, hey, you said when you were running away from the French woman, you heard voices in the woods or whatever. What were they saying? And Saeed's like, I didn't know what I heard. I was like messed up and stuff. But did you hear something? And Sawyer's like, nah. No, I
didn't hear. Nope.
I wasn't asking
Not
for
me.
any reason.
A friend. I was asking for a friend.
Yeah. Fucking, yeah. Kate was wondering. I don't know. She's the closest to Sawyer's friend, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Great scene. Love it. Then this leads into a flashback. Sawyer and a woman are making out in a hotel room. Classic. But then there's a guy waiting in the hotel room in the darkness. He's like, hey, Sawyer, you fucking loser, or whatever. And Sawyer, like, takes his mark, the woman who he's gonna con, and he's like, okay, go wait at the hotel bar, or whatever. Sawyer talks to this guy, who's played by, what is this actor's name? He's the fucking... He's
No
the cop
clue.
robot in Terminator 2.
I'll take your word for it.
Basically, Sawyer's like, I told you I would fucking kill you if I saw you again. And this guy's like, you're not the killing type. Besides, I'm here to make things right about what happened last time. And he hands Sawyer a folder with the supposed identity and location of the guy who conned Sawyer's parents into, which resulted in the, murder-suicide. And that guy is in Sydney, Australia. What do you think about this flashback scene?
Good scene. It is effective. I don't think I have much to say about it, but it works. It does what it needs to.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's good. It's like cool that it starts setting up. It starts getting the idea in our head of like the central question.
Totally.
Of the episode, because the Sawyer's like, I'll kill you, and this guy's like, nah, you wouldn't kill me. You're not a killing guy.
It's well structured. It's a well structured episode that knows. This is so weird to say because like everything should ideally be this way, right? But like, it knows what's going to happen later, and
yes,
is able to referencing that without blatantly setting it up.
Yeah, like it's not obvious that's what that line
natural.
Is alluding to.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, and it's getting those ideas sort of
it is
floating around
them,
in your head.
Yeah, without looking at you and telling you to think about it. It's good writing.
Yeah, because like then you're like thinking about that question: would Sawyer kill somebody?
Yeah.
Right? Because by the end of this scene, we know it's like Sawyer wants to get revenge on this guy, right? So we're like, oh, is it? Would he?
Well, am I mistaken, or did we? I guess because he still had the letter. I'm thinking back to when he and Kate were talking about his letter, and that it went undelivered, basically.
There's like an implication that that's the case because Sawyer still has it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily reveal like what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just thinking that in my head, and I think I might have just been assuming it, is that he never exacted revenge upon that person.
I think that's kind of, that's like left to be implied.
Okay.
I think by the fact that he has the letter and stuff.
But yeah, good scene.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because like the fact that Sawyer still has that, like if that's a detail that we remember at the moment, that also is like creating uncertainty about what's going to happen with this plot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. All right. The next scene is kind of just this little scene between Jack and Kate.
Next scene is the worst scene in the episode, I think. And it's not even that bad.
It's not. No, they kind of just. Do they even say anything important to each other? I feel like they kind of just repeat information that we know or something.
Basically, what we get is Jack got the guns back from everybody except Sawyer.
Oh, right.
And he wants the gun back from Sawyer, but he's not that pressed about letting Sawyer keep it. And Kate is like, I'll get it back for you. That's functionally what the scene does. What I really didn't like about the scene was like them weirdly discussing the details and implications around Kate making out with Sawyer. Like they are just straight up like Jack is like, well, last time you tried to get something back from him, you just made out with him and he didn't even have it. And Kate's like, well, when I was making out with him, blah, and I'm just like, this is weird. Like y'all are just...
It is weird.
It's uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. I'm like, what is going on with y'all?
Yeah, it's like, Jack... It's weird because like Jack didn't see them making out, right? So like, it's weird that Jack has a tone of like, he's teasing her for it or something when like, he doesn't know that Kate was into it. Like,
it also has a tinge for me of like, not heavily, but of Jack being somewhat hurt by that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, Jack, don't be into Kate. Just don't. Like, you're so much cooler when you're not.
I feel like these characters, it's just the way they talk to each other just feels kind of like, I don't know. I just don't, I don't like their like supposed like
pseudo
chemistry.
Relationship almost, but not.
Yeah.
But
that they're like, just the way that they're like sort of smiling at each other.
I
and
agree.
Like,
they're not doing this in the show right now, which is good, but just broadly, like, will they, won't they, romantic stuff and like romantic like love triangles and shit in media, I can't fucking stand. I can't fucking stand.
It's pretty hard to get them to like be good
And oftentimes it's weirdly a business decision and reason to string it along to keep viewership and stuff. And that just bothers me because it feels icky for some reason. Like, it really does bother me.
I think it's like business stuff. I also think that writers, it's like it's so much more of a common thing than to have people like together and have their relationship develop. Like, I feel like you see that way less.
Well, and it's easier to create tension there, right? Like, it's a cheat code for...
Yes, it's a cheat code.
Yeah.
It's a very quick and easy way of like creating tension or whatever. For like, for an example of a show that does that well, I mean, because it's like, the sort of will they, won't they thing. Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, yeah.
Season 1. Yeah. That's like a will they, won't they thing where like, as an audience member, you're like so badly like, please get together. Like, it actually works effectively.
I think it also works because literally it's... How many episodes is that season?
I don't know, like 8.
Yeah,
probably.
okay, right? It's not stringing it along over 4 seasons of 20 episodes each, which shows do.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like it's pretty linear in that show,
Uh-huh.
where it builds. And I'm fine with people developing a relationship over time. But I hate the thing where it's like, oh, they become close, and then this event happens, and they get mad at each other, and then, they have to be mad at each other, grow apart, and then they get back to close. Oh, are they? Nope. They gotta be... Like, I don't know. But you're right. That is an example of it being done well.
Yeah. It's also like the romance is well written. Like the way that the characters are interested in each other and grow from being close to each other is like interesting.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, I guess I like them. They are opposite gender from me.
Yeah, they are the mainest character of the opposite gender.
Right. Like, yeah.
At
least with Kate and Sawyer, I guess we could talk about that a bit later, but like, at least I get the impression with like Kate and Sawyer that they both kind of just want to fuck each other. Like, there's just like sexual tension between them.
And we will talk about it a bit later, but like that there's some commonality shared between them and stuff. Whereas Jack, I'm like, dude, just, you're not into her. Like, I don't want to see this. And I don't think that he is. I just don't like how they're having it halfway both ways weird. Like, it's so weird.
They're uncommitted to whether Jack is interested in her, right? Because, like, I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
So that was the scene. Like I said, I think it was the worst scene, but also it wasn't terrible. It was fine.
Yeah. I guess one quick note here is, like, last episode we talked about, like, oh, it's interesting that these different characters got guns and stuff. And they decided to not have the guns stick around.
Yeah, I thought about that. I do wonder a bit about if, for example, Saeed is just going to be like, yes, Jack, you should be controller of guns. Here you go. Yeah,
it's kind of like, whatever, but, it's not like a thing where it's like, that was a bad decision. It's like, okay, I guess they just decided to not do that.
Also, here's the other thing, genuinely, and I think that this is fair, but I'm a lot more willing to forgive things like that when you're presenting me with a well-written, compelling narrative to follow.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more willing to say, okay, this is what you need to make the narrative you want. I'll buy into it, even if I could kind of poke holes in it, right?
Yeah.
It's when what you're being given is garbage that you're like, why did you do this disappointing narrative thing that doesn't make sense just to deliver this? You didn't even take advantage of your little shortcut. But yeah, so I think I did think about that, but I also, I agree. I think it's fine.
Yeah, for sure. So the next little scene, basically just like, it's Charlie. Claire comes up to Charlie. Charlie's doing something. I don't know. Whatever. Sharpening a stick or something. And Claire's like, hey, Charlie, I remembered some more stuff about how we're friends. Do you want to, like, go for a walk or whatever? And Charlie's like, nah, I got stuff that I gotta do. Some really important stuff. So I'm gonna do that stuff instead. And Charlie leaves. Yep. This is the start of our B plot. We'll kind of get into it more as we get into it. I do just want to say again, why did they have her have amnesia? Whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, because, like, this could all play out the same way if she didn't have amnesia.
Well, especially, and we've talked about this before, where they just go, even with, like, the guns thing, where they're like, okay, the guns thing, never mind. We, again, don't have guns, we're putting the guns away. It's like, she has amnesia. And then literally the next episode, you're like, she kind of doesn't have amnesia anymore. Like, then why did she have amnesia?
Stuff.
Like,
yeah. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
whatever. It's fine.
Whatever. So, yeah, that's that little scene.
Sawyer finds his tarp in the jungle.
Yeah. And then what happens?
There's a big old boar. It's the boar, and it, like, charges at him and runs him over and shit, and he gets all muddy and dirty.
Yeah. The boar eludes his grasp yet again. And then he's back with all of his shit, and he's, like, all muddy, and he's all pissed off and grumpy.
It's a good feel. It's a good vibe. Like, he's doing a good job.
And he's just he's getting his ass kicked in a very petty way.
Yeah.
And Kate comes up to him and also is just, like, amused and is like, what's happening? Why are you muddy and angry? Or whatever.
Saeed was doing this, and then Kate's doing it too. They're being real skeptical about, like, the existence of this boar.
I feel like they're mostly just, like...
making fun of him?
Yeah, I think they're mostly just like, you fucking loser. You're getting owned repeatedly by a boar.
I don't know. With the thing with the tent, Saeed was like, it stole your tent? Really? And then Kate's like, a boar? Like, at some point she says, like, a boar wouldn't do that. And I'm like, what do you think he's making? You think he's... that, like, Charlie is beating him? Like, you think Walt is fucking with him? And he's just like, it was a boar. It was a boar. Like, it just felt... I didn't get the skepticism there. It felt strange.
Yeah. I think they're mostly bemused more than skeptical, is, like, how I read it. But also, like, Kate is in disbelief because Sawyer's like, I'm gonna track down that boar and fuck it up. And Kate's like, do you know how to track animals? And he's like, no.
See ya.
I'm gonna do it anyway. And he stomps off into the woods to do that.
Yeah.
I love Sawyer's little petty revenge quest.
No, Sawyer, he's so good in this episode. He's just actually really good.
This episode does some kind of sly tone work that is actually really good, because this boar thing is like, a lot of it is played for comedy early on, but the further we get in the plot, like, it becomes more serious and less of like a joke. But that doesn't feel like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about last episode, they really dropped the ball on the tone.
You're totally right. It doesn't feel incongruous, and it doesn't feel jarring because the tone makes shifts over the course of the episode.
Yeah.
Rather than abruptly pivoting in the midst of an episode and then pivoting back. Like, you're not getting whiplash.
Right. Totally. You're sort of following this one continuous thread of, like, what's happening, you know?
And the flashbacks work with that, too. The flashbacks also amp it up.
Right.
In that direction, tonally, which is great. Like, it's just well constructed.
Totally.
It's constructed by somebody who knows how narratives work. And that should be a baseline for TV, but apparently it fucking isn't. I don't understand.
Jack. Hurley. Said. Michelle. Lyra. Sawyer. Walt.
Son.
Jin. Michael. Not Vincent. Charlie.
All right. So the next thing that happens is we're going into the next flashback. Sawyer is meeting up with this sort of sketchy Aussie guy, and he's buying a gun.
With
like
hollow
black
points.
Market gun. Yeah, with hollow points. It's like a snub-nosed revolver and stuff.
Them's for killing folk.
Yeah, that's like what the gun seller says. He's like, that's for killing people, and you better fucking know who you are. You find out who you are when you look down the barrel of the gun at someone.
This was a funny speech for, like, an illicit arms dealer to give. But I was okay with it because it works in the narrative and stuff. So I again, it's like something where I might not have forgiven it if the episode was worse. But totally. I will forgive it. So yeah.
Like, it's a little funny that he's kind of like, you better be ready for this. It's like, aren't you trying to sell him?
Yeah, I was about to say, just sell him the gun. What the fuck do you care? Like,
but, you know, it's written and acted well enough. Like, basically, it's written enough from the perspective of, like, a sketchy gun dealer guy that it, like, it works, you know?
They throw a little line in about, like, you know, because if it turns out you aren't a killer and don't kill him, no refunds. And that's kind of the way they try to get away with being like, that's why he had to be like that, because he was looking out for his own. So, I don't know. It was fine.
And Sawyer is looking really intense. Now we cut back to the island, and Charlie and Hurley are, like, burying Ethan's body. Charlie's like, you don't have to help, because, like, I killed Ethan. But Hurley's like, nah, man, we're friends, or whatever. And, yeah, I don't know. They do a little, like, talking, a little bit of palling around. But Hurley kind of picks up that Charlie is, like, not fully there. Like, he seems kind of, closed off.
Yeah.
This scene, what do you think about this little scene? Did any of the humor work for you here?
No.
Yeah, same.
It didn't at all. I think that I really like burial scenes.
Uh-huh.
Not just memorial, funeral, whatevers, but like literally digging a hole into the ground to put a body into. I just think that's cool, like genuinely. Like I think that's you got a lot of stuff to work with emotionally there.
Yeah, and it's very like manifest, right? The emotionality is like become physical in the labor you're putting into this, right?
And I think that they didn't use it for that here, and that's fine because, like you said, it is the B plot, so I'm not upset about that at all. It's just like I kind of missed an opportunity to do something really emotional there, but it's fine that they didn't. The humor did not work for me at all. And at one point, Hurley asks Charlie straight up, "Are you all right?" And he's asking this of a heroin addict who recently stopped getting heroin, whose pregnant close friend was abducted and just came back with no memory of him.
Charlie was also almost murdered.
And then he shot a defenseless man 4 times in the chest and killed him.
Yeah, he like cold-blooded killed this guy.
Yeah, so I just don't like that. Seemed really absurd to me that you would ask Charlie here, "Are you all right?" Like, how in what world could he possibly be anything close to all right?
I mean, I will say this. I feel like that is congruous with how Hurley acts.
That's fair.
Like,
yeah,
he's kind of a dumbass who just like says shit.
Yeah.
Like he was like, what? He asked Jack if there was a dinosaur in the jungle.
Yeah, no, it's
like
true. It's another thing for me. Yeah, that actually does speak to my dislike of Hurley.
Yeah,
where I'm like, oh,
like,
Hurley, you kind of just suck.
Definitely, if you have like some emotional intelligence, obviously Charlie is not okay.
Yeah,
but it tracks with Hurley.
Sure,
to be like, are you okay?
But yeah, so I like just the thought of Charlie burying this person that he murdered. Like, that's an interesting thought to me. I think the scene didn't do that much for me at all, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I wish the humor was... I wish the jokes landed. They feel kind of cringy.
I agree.
There's also one shot in this scene that is lit, like, really absurdly differently from everything else, and that just stood out to me as, like, kind of weird. Did you also notice that? Were you like...
Oh, yeah. What's the one with the hand, too? With the weird Ethan Rom giant hand in it? Is it that shot?
It was the one where it's, like, Charlie and Hurley, like, against the sunset?
Yeah. No, it also has Ethan Rom's body in front of them in the foreground. And it
has,
like massive
a giant
hand.
Ethan hand?
Yeah. It's a weird shot.
It's a weird shot. Like, it looks, like, green screened, which I don't think it is. I think it's just that they fuck the lighting up. It looks
almost,
really
honestly,
weird.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's something as simple as, they were running out of daylight and they needed this shot.
I think that is what it is.
They're like, well, fuck, we got to get something here.
I literally think that's what it is. Because that is the thing. If there's shooting on location for this show, they use natural light a lot. And, like, that is actually going to affect it. Particularly because this scene, like, takes place, like, at sunset.
And that doesn't last very long.
Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I get it.
No, totally. But you are right.
It's just kind of silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, so Hurley asked this about Charlie. Charlie's like, yeah, man, I'm fine, whatever. And this goes to Hurley going to Saeed. This is like a bit, the next day, probably.
And being a dumbass to Saeed.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Saeed, do you have the thing where, like, you're fucked up because of war and stuff?
Yeah, it's...
And Saeed's like, do you mean PTSD?
Yeah, Hurley does not know what PTSD... Yeah, it gives Hurley way too much credit to say he asked, hey, Saeed, do you have experience with PTSD? Like...
No, yeah. It's a lot more... What he literally asks is, like, do you have, like, Gulf War syndrome, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And Saeed's like, no, I'm Iraqi, and I was on the other side of that war.
Yeah.
Basically, he's like, could you talk to Charlie? I think something's wrong with him. And Saeed's like, what's wrong with Charlie? And Hurley's like, well, he did kill someone. And I like that little, like, I like that Saeed doesn't have, like, the emotional awareness there.
Yeah.
That, like, that's what's wrong with Charlie. Like, it's kind of cool. It, like, speaks to that he has a bit more, like, desensitization to this kind of violence.
No, totally. You know? Yeah. It's not something that is in his life particularly would stand out in a way that it would stand out in Charlie's life.
So, yeah, like, I like that. Like, Hurley is being a dumbass in, like, kind of not a funny way, I would say.
I agree.
But I do like that. I also like that he goes to Saeed, you know?
Yeah.
I like that Saeed is, like... I like it because, like, Saeed is not the character I would tend to ever think of as, like, the emotional support guy. But, like, I like that he's being put in that position here because it's, like, different for him, right? And it makes sense.
I like the way that he receives it, and that he isn't just immediately like, oh yes, of course I will go help. He's just like, I want more information about what's up. He isn't overly eager, I guess, is what I like about it. But he's also willing to do it. Yeah,
it's like, it's a very characterful interaction.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's what I feel like this episode does.
It's so good.
Really well. Yeah, like, all of the little interactions between characters are very characterful.
Yeah,
like,
it takes different characters and mushes them together, and you get to see who they are and how they interact. It's so good.
It does help, like, a lot that the main character is Sawyer, who's just, like, a good, entertaining, and interesting, like, compelling character, dramatically, as well.
I thought Saeed's, well, I was going to say, I thought Saeed's instances in this episode were great, and I do think that they were great, but like I could say that about a lot of people in this episode. So
yeah, not Hurley,
no,
but like basically, but yeah, a bunch of characters for sure. All right, that leads us into Sawyer is like stomping around in the jungle trying to find the boar, and Kate is basically like, hey loser, you've been following Boone's footprints, do you want help tracking the boar? And Sawyer's like, all right, whatever. And that leads into, I think, the best scene that Kate has had in the entire show, honestly.
Yeah, it probably is. It's where she actually does get some characterization.
Yeah, this scene, I think... Okay, so what happens is they've set up a camp in the jungle. It's just Sawyer and Kate. And basically, Sawyer busts out a little bottle of vodka, like an airplane bottle of vodka, and Kate's like, where'd you get that? Sawyer's like, plane?
Yeah, what, dumbass?
Yeah, I got it from the plane. So basically, the two of them start drinking, sharing drinks, and Sawyer suggests playing... Well, I know it as Never Have I Ever, but he calls it I Never, which maybe that's like a Southern thing or something.
I think the reason you know it as Never Have I Ever is because that's just what the fuck it is, and this I Never thing is not real. I think somebody owns the rights to Never Have I Ever, and they couldn't use it in TV. That's what I think.
That would be so fucking... Like, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Like...
I also felt it was very strange that he was calling it I Never, because like that, I've never heard that before in my life.
I bet it's regional, because like, okay, look, my friend /ex, she's from Ohio, and the place where she's at in Ohio, instead of playing Duck Duck Goose, they play Duck Duck Gray Duck.
I don't believe you. I think you're lying to me. Right
Straight up! No. Straight up, regional stuff is so weird. There's like places where like, where is it? I think in, like, Maine, they call bowling something else. Maine bowling slang. Wait, what do they call bowling in Hawaii? Math riddle? Okay, never mind. I'm getting off. But, no, I swear to God, it's like there's weird regional things. Because with folk games, it's all, like, transmitted by word of mouth, so it's just like telephone, you know? Things get changed. It's weird.
It is weird.
Anyway, so they start playing Never Have I Ever. It's just the two of them. And it starts where they're just, like, doing stuff that's little, like, get-to-know-you stuff. Maybe, like, a little flirty, a little teasy. And then it, like, gets a bit more personal. Like, never have I ever been married. We learn Kate has been married, but it was, like, short or whatever. But basically what happens over the course of the game is they start by sort of teasing each other. And you're like, oh, maybe they're gonna hook up or whatever. But then, like, the questions they're saying to each other become more and more personal and even like venomous a little bit.
Yeah, no, it escalates in a really interesting way.
Yeah, like each exchange, it's hard to even break it down because I think each back and forth we could talk about because like the way that it escalates, I think it's really, really good. It's like each question that they ask and how the other person responds is like subtly telling us stuff about each of those characters, which I think is awesome.
You're right, and that the responses too are doing that. It's not just like now we know this piece of information, it's how that information is conveyed that is telling us stuff about it in a very nuanced way, in a very natural feeling way. And the back and forth of question answer is really well done, and it steps up the level of discourse between them very steadily and very well.
Yeah, it's cool too because it's like, you know, the questions that they ask also tell us what they think about each other, which is cool.
What information they're trying to get from each other.
Yeah, that too, right? Because like it's interesting. Like Sawyer asks, like, "Oh, never have I ever been married," and Kate has this. She takes a tiny drink because she was like, "It was short." But Sawyer looks kind of like actually like hurt by that, like he wasn't expecting it or something.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. But it escalates to like Sawyer asks the final question, and I really like that he escalates to like 100.
Oh yeah, that they get there. Because he could have stopped, and I think it shows, to me at least, right? It shows that this is what happens when you get two badly damaged people playing this game together.
Yeah.
Because what his final question is never have ever killed somebody, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you normally, even if you're getting deeper, wouldn't go there.
Yeah, that's like an insane thing to ask, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. And something that I really like is that it's like Sawyer says it, that like my interpretation of it is like Kate said something that's like kind of like venomous towards him or like really getting under his skin.
Yeah, it's poking at him. Yeah.
And I like that his like defense of that is like, I'm going to escalate and say this crazy thing that I have done and I'll drink and it'll be like intimidating or something. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's like kind of my read of it. But then like Kate drinks because, you know, we know that she killed someone she loved or whatever.
It's interesting. That wasn't my instinctual read. And now I'm trying to think back to, does Sawyer know that Kate was the prisoner person?
I think he does, yeah.
Okay. Because my read of it was that he was getting poked and that he, rather than coming back, and you could easily be right, but my impression was that rather than coming back with something of like, look how hard boy I am with this one, he's doing it as a like, you poked me with this thing that makes me kind of uncomfortable. I'm gonna fucking come at you with a crowbar to the head now.
Yeah.
And make you face this thing that makes you uncomfortable. Like,
for sure. It's definitely like, I like that there's different ways to interpret it, but like, it's like good. Really cool. Yeah. And I like that Kate drinks because like, I like that she also is like telling that piece of information to Sawyer.
I was thinking about that too.
Even though it's something that she was concealing.
In terms of like, this game isn't sacrosanct. Like, you could just lie.
Yeah.
Like, but there was a choice made to be honest there when you didn't actually have to be.
Yeah. And I like that it's like, yeah, like you said, they're like both damaged, and the way that they both kind of handle that is by like lashing out. But in this moment, it's not by like concealing themselves. Well, and I think that's like cool.
Well, yeah, I think it is. And to me, you could only, personally for me, you can only get this sharing level with two damaged people. If you take a damaged person, you put a pretty well-adjusted person on the other end, they're not going to open up like that because it doesn't feel equal in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that having two damaged people here together really helps them each open up and is just really compelling to see.
Yeah, they're like sharing their trauma with each other and that comes out. Yeah, but this scene, honestly, really good. Yeah. And they end the scene where they both like feel like shit. Like clearly they're both like...
And it started so happy.
Like, yeah, and it's like it killed the vibe, but also they learn more about each other, right?
It also, this scene was long.
It's really long. They give it a lot of room. Yeah.
It's really nice to just sit with these characters having interactions and just sit with it and not need the plot advancement and not need information dumping and just sit with them.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really good scene. Very well done. And and it also does stuff for the flashback plot by creating tension of like Sawyer drank, so like Sawyer has killed someone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's sick. I'm so glad we got a good episode, honestly.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering at the end, I was curious what you were going to think, because I genuinely, at the end of this, I was like, is it possible that I'm just running on like 4 hours of sleep and I'm exhausted and my mental capacity has been brought down to like happy lost viewer status? Like, but I'm glad you liked it because it makes me feel less dumb.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's a good episode. All right, so we go from this really good scene into a flashback where we see like it's the same scene from the opening of just like the door opening and the boots coming in, the kids under the bed or whatever. And then it cuts away, and then when it cuts back, instead of the boots, it's the hoofs of a boar, and we're hearing little boar sounds, and then we also hear the whispers, and they say, it'll come back around. That's like the thing that we hear at the end of the whispers. And then Sawyer fucking wakes up, and the boar has trashed their camp. It's like the morning, but has specifically only trashed Sawyer's stuff and like eaten the food from his backpack and stuff.
Yeah, just left all of Kate's stuff totally alone.
Yeah. What do you think about this little
It's fucking
moment?
weird. Like, I don't... We'll talk about this at the end when we have everything in there, but I don't know how much of... maybe this is fine. Maybe this is a positive element. But I don't know how much of this to not believe, but how much weight to put onto anything in terms of meaning or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like, is it actually, you kind of talked about this at the beginning, is it a manifestation of Sawyer's shit made real on this island because the island is fucking weird and shit? Or is it just some boar that like happened to fuck with Sawyer's shit and not Kate's?
Yeah, I like that. I think that ambiguity is actually like really awesome.
I just basically
personally
don't know what to make of it. I'm like, I don't, and maybe that is totally good and fine, but I just felt a bit confused in a way of just like,
Yeah, definitely my experience with that ambiguity is like, I think it's really cool because it's like, I mean, it creates questions about like, what is the nature of the island? Like, and how much of what is happening there
I think you're right.
is mystical versus like people projecting their own stuff onto it.
Some of the Locke stuff too, like with Charlie's guitar and whatnot, where he says some mystical shit and then it's like, or was it not mystical? Yeah.
Yeah, and like he just saw it and he saw the guitar case or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just there. Yeah, I think that's cool. I like that we're playing with that. And I like that it's like sort of playing with the ideas of like, is it possible for these characters to leave their past behind, right?
Yeah.
When they're given this supposed blank slate, is that even possible?
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah. So that's cool. Basically, so Sawyer's upset. Kate also like thinks it's funny that the boar it just fucked his shit up. And then like they hear a noise in the woods and Locke emerges just like eating an apple and he says, "Good morning."
It's so good.
I love his fucking entrance.
It's so
like
good.
He's just like chilling. Like Locke is Locke is just in his element in the jungle now.
Yeah.
That's just like his thing. He just lives on this island. He was vibing, he was like meditating with the rocks or some shit, and then he's like, okay, breakfast time, having an apple, strolling through the woods. Oh, what's over here? It's Kate and Sawyer. Like, it's so fucking good.
It capitalizes on character, and it uses character so well, and it is genuinely, it's funny, and it's also like, it's not just funny though, it's not just haha, it's like, it feels good inside to watch it,
Yeah, totally. It's funny, and you're like, I mean, I think the reason it feels good inside is, because of all that stuff, it feels right for all the characters. Like, it makes sense that Locke is just, like, fucking wandering around in the jungle, Also, Locke is a great character. So
he's so good. This scene with Locke is so good. He is so good in this episode.
He does his fucking amazing thing that whenever he does it, it's awesome, where he shows up and then he just says, like, some random story.
Yeah, he just tells a story and then fucks off, and it's like, what? But it was great.
Yeah, it's so good, and people are like confused by it and shit. The story that he tells here is like super dark. Like, he starts by just being like, yeah, my sister died when I was a kid, and Kate and Sawyer both wordlessly are like, like This is okay. This is dark.
The way, yeah, he starts with it is so, it's very dark, but it's so casually said.
Yeah, he's not like reliving his trauma or something. He's just like, yeah, this is a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And he basically tells this story about like after his sister died, a dog wandered into their home and like sat in his sister's room. His mom was like, oh, the dog is my child who has come back.
His mom had been blaming herself for his sister's death.
Yeah.
And his mom thought the dog was his sister coming back to tell her to forgive herself.
Yeah. And I think Kate is like...
So, you're saying the dog was your sister?
And I love that Locke is like...
Well, that would be silly.
Yeah, it's a great line. It's a great written line, and it's delivered so well.
Yeah.
Just so flippantly, just like, oh no, that would be silly.
Yeah. And this is, again, why I think it's cool that, like, we're not sure if the boar is an actual manifestation, or if it's just Sawyer, like, imagining that, because that's sort of what's happening with the dog, right?
Absolutely. Like, wouldn't it be silly if the boar was a manifestation? Wouldn't that be
right.
silly? Yes, it would, but that doesn't mean it isn't.
Right, and it's also, like, it both can and can't be. It's like, to Locke's mom, that is true. Like, that's what reality is, right? But in Locke's reality and in everybody else's reality, no, that's silly. Of course the dog's not your daughter.
Yeah.
Right. But, like, yeah, it's great. And the other thing I love about this is that the message from Locke's story is, like, the dog was showing up to tell my mom to forgive herself. But the thing that the boar said, or, like, the whispers said with the boar to Sawyer is, like, it'll come back around, which does not sound very forgiving.
No, it's you're going to get what's coming to you.
Yeah, it's awesome that it's like Locke has no idea that that's what's happening. But like this story is like not reassuring.
I love
from Sawyer's perspective.
You're so right though. Just Locke rolling up, pulling these fucking stories out, just dropping them on the table is so good.
It's awesome. Yeah. He's like, yeah, he just shows up. He's like, here's a little nugget for you to chew on in your subconscious. All right, bye.
Yeah. And he's like handing them coffee. He says he found some coffee. And I
love
assuming
that.
that's what he's making?
Yeah, he has a little, like, fucking coffee pot, and he found some coffee from the plane crash, because he was, like, scrounging for shit. And he hands them both cups of coffee.
He doesn't even ask them if they'd like any coffee. He just makes it for them and hands it to them.
Yeah, he has, like, enough awareness to know that that's, like, a thing that would be a real comfort.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I also like this scene as, like, something that I like in this episode. This was also with, like, Sawyer and Kate around the fire. And it happens other times in the show, and I like it, is, like, the characters trying to recreate some comfort, like, some sense of home. And, like, having this ritual of, like, in the morning, oh, we're having a cup of coffee. But they're, like, in the jungle, and they're, like, dealing with, like, maybe metaphysical shit or whatever. It's, like, cool. I like that contrast.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. So I didn't take that many notes this episode, actually. I think because I was engaged and didn't have too many things to write down that was just like, what the fuck was that? So I'm just going to read you my last 3 notes that I wrote down.
Yeah.
Locke, so good.
Uh-huh.
And then, where did this great episode come from? And then my last note is just actually, though. Like, where did this great episode, like, what happened? What? This thing just got dropped on our heads in the fucking episode 16? Like, what is going on?
It would be so sick if the next episode was also good.
Oh, that would be
if the next episode was also this good, I would be like hype.
Yeah,
I would be so hype.
That would. Ooh.
But you know, we'll see. You know, don't want to.
Oh yeah, I don't think
overhype ourselves.
That's fine.
Yeah, it'll return to the mean, etc.
Terry O'Quinn, he's so good. He does so much with his delivery and his face, and
he's serious. Yeah,
he's so good.
He's got this character like on lock. Like, he's
got it on lock.
So good. On lock. He's got lock on lock. I hope that after this scene ends, like, we don't see it, but I hope that Locke teaches them about bear bagging.
I was hoping that he literally just, as soon as it ends, stands up and just walks away straight back into the jungle.
Yeah. He's just like, peace, enjoy your coffee.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. I also like that Locke is sort of like becoming this mystical figure, one with the island, who just like emerges when people are in need of like spiritual assistance or whatever.
It's really good.
Yeah. All right. So then this goes to flashback. It's a shrimp stand where we know the fucking guy is the guy that Sawyer is supposed to kill, right? or that he wants to kill. And it's like in the middle of the fucking nowhere in Australia. Sawyer goes up to the shrimp stand. The guy's like, you want to order some shrimp? Sawyer's like, okay, give me the shrimp.
He's very, understandably, and portrayed well so, but he's struggling to communicate and behave normally.
Yes, he's like really tense. It's obvious that he's like super tense. But this guy is just like, whatever. There's just kind of a weirdo ordering shrimp or whatever.
Yeah.
And we see like Sawyer pull the gun slowly out of his pocket and like cock it. And the guy's like, all right, I'm going to go grab you your shrimp. He goes to get the shrimp and Sawyer's looking all intense. And then when the guy gets back, Sawyer's gone. He couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this scene? Did this like tension work for you and stuff?
Yeah. No, I thought it was very good. And it's like you've been talking about in this episode, things that have been set up well and not in obvious ways, with the Sawyer being told by the gun guy, or no, being told by Higgs or whoever that he wasn't a killer. And the gun guy being like, you gotta look somebody in the eye and then kill him if you're a killer. And then him drinking on the I've never killed anybody. And all that comes together here. And it is like, what is he? Is he going to kill? Is he not? Like, it is a lot of times in the show, I feel like there isn't a question there. It's like, right. I know what's going to happen because I've been told, basically, what's going to happen. And that's not fun. This was fun. This was...
Yeah.
I was glued to my screen for an episode of Lost.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was like... And I couldn't remember... I didn't remember this episode or whatever. So I was like, I actually don't know what Sawyer's going to do. And that is tension succeeding. Like, really you actually don't know what's going to happen. Good. Yeah. So then it cuts to Sawyer in a bar, right? It's just like some random dive, and there's one other lonely customer there drinking, vodka or scotch or whatever, drinking shots. And Sawyer and this guy, this mysterious guy, end up having a sort of a conversation because they're both American or whatever. And they end up like drinking together, talking. And when that happens, we learn the mysterious guy, Jack's dad.
This would have been a really cool moment if we hadn't gotten Jack's dad. I mean, it was still cool. I liked it. But it would have been such a out of left field if we hadn't gotten Jack's dad in the previously on.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that it's like, this is a thing where it's kind of a surprise, but it makes sense. Yeah. Because like, we have all the information that like, Jack's dad, before he died, he was just like on a bender in Australia.
Yeah, he was just a vagrant drunk in Australia.
Something else that I like is like, it's definitely like a big coincidence.
Yeah, but that's fine. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, well, but that's, I think
and
it's also
Lost
interesting because
it's
the
like island and the plane and the
right. Yeah. It's like, but it's like feasible enough that it's like maybe it is just a coincidence, or maybe there's something else going on. Who knows?
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
I think that's cool. I buy it. This scene. Do you have a way to sort of describe this scene? Because this scene is also pretty long. They have like a pretty extended conversation.
Yeah. I don't really know if I have a succinct way to describe it. What, Jack's dad is talking about suffering and how some people are just fated to suffer. And he talks about Jack a bit. He says, I have a son about your age. He thinks that I hate him, but I actually don't. I love him and I'm proud of him. And I suffer because I'm fated to suffer.
Yeah.
Something.
He's like, I could pick up the phone and call Jack. I could call my son right now and fix everything, which is probably not true, but he could, call his son.
It would be a step
whatever.
Towards fixing things.
Yeah. And Sawyer's like, why don't you just do that? And Jack's dad is like, because I'm weak. He just like straight up says, I'm weak or whatever.
I did prickle a bit at that. Not in isolation, I wouldn't have. But because of the Charlie stuff, where Charlie is being depicted as either, we talked about it last episode, as either an upstanding community member or a weak drug addict.
Sure, yeah.
When you have this guy drinking and all this, and it's reduced to the binary of, I'm an alcoholic, I am terrible, I am weak, that's why I don't fix things. It made me prickle at that because of the context that this show has made around that type of terminology and talking about that type of stuff.
Totally. I get where you're coming from with that. I think, like, for me, it didn't bother me just because, like, this is Jack's dad's interpretation of himself, and this seems, like, in alignment with the kind of perspective that he has. Like, early in life, he's, like, telling Jack, like, you suck. You're just bad at shit, and that's why you'll never succeed or whatever.
Yeah, to be honest, it didn't really bother me. It just
Uh-huh.
it got my ears perked up a bit, and I was like,
Yeah.
are we gonna be
Yeah,
shitty here?
Totally.
I liked it. I thought it was a good scene.
Yeah, and what's cool here, at the end of it, basically, Jack's dad is like, so the business that you're here to take care of in Australia, will it ease your suffering? And Sawyer says, yeah. And then Jack's dad is like, so what are you doing here? I love that Jack's dad sucks at interacting with other people and just gives them bad advice and shit.
It is consistent with what we've seen of him.
Right. And I also like that this is a thing where, like, Sawyer doesn't have the ability to recognize that, of course, revenge isn't going to ease his suffering.
One that you look at this old drunk man at the bar who literally just said he lost his wallet or something.
Yeah.
And you go, and he comes over to you and is drunkenly talking to you about all this shit that Sawyer isn't in a frame of mind to put together. Maybe this is not the man that I should be really listening to. Yeah,
Totally.
like maybe drunk broke man at the bar, not the sage.
Yeah, like, he's maybe not your new life advisor or whatever.
But that also feels fine to me because Sawyer is not doing all right.
Yeah, totally. He's, like, not really present. He's, like, drinking a lot, too.
Yeah.
And, like, is fucked up. It totally makes sense that he would believe this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I also like that Jack's dad has been shown to have a very, like, masculine, like, you're a strong man or you're a weak man, whatever.
It's very
he
binary.
has that kind of perspective.
It's very,
yeah, and that Sawyer would, like, resonate with that.
Totally.
Like, it makes sense to me,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And this fucking smash cut, it's nighttime, in the rain and shit, and Sawyer is sitting outside the shrimp truck in his car with his gun, looking fucking pissed. All right, and then cut to commercial. What the fuck's gonna happen?
I love that. I actually love it, yeah, because when he leaves the shrimp truck without having killed the guy, my tendency is to think, oh, okay, he didn't kill the guy. But now he's gone back.
Yeah.
And now I'm still like, what the fuck is gonna happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
good.
Still,
is he gonna be able to do it or not or whatever?
It's good.
And another element of tension here is that we saw Sawyer being arrested in Boone's flashback.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, oh shit, like, was that because he killed a guy or tried to kill a guy, or like, what's gonna happen? It's great.
It's really very good.
I love that we're just like, hey, check out this cool scene.
Yeah.
That's like this whole episode.
Does anybody know he's a gun?
Just pull the trigger.
No way, no.
This next scene, I also like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Charlie's on the beach. He's like shearing. I don't know what the word is for this, but he's basically taking the rind off of coconuts. And Saeed comes over and basically talks to him. They have a conversation where Saeed is basically like, yeah, there was this guy who I fucking hated for some reason. I forget. He like killed some people or something. And then that guy got captured and I volunteered to be on the firing squad to execute him. And I did it and I don't regret it, but I also had nightmares about it. And then Charlie's like, so do you have any advice for me? And Saeed's like, you're not alone. So like, don't pretend to be alone.
It's a really good scene.
It's really good. Yeah.
Charlie is pretty standoffish in the beginning, you know. Saeed tells him that story, and Charlie's basically like, sounds like you're the one with the problem, buddy. Like, why are you asking me if I have a problem? Maybe you should get yourself sorted and all that stuff. It's a nice level of pushback before reaching the do you have any advice stage.
Yeah.
Naveen Andrews, I just want to talk to Naveen Andrews. He seems like such a, I don't know, nice person to talk to. He's so good at just being charming and sweet.
You want to talk to him.
I do. That's what I want out of this man. It's just I want him to sit there and we just talk.
Uh-huh.
No, really though. Look at him. Isn't he, I don't know. He's so gentle in this scene and like sweet, and it almost reminds me of some of the stuff, the way he was with Shannon, where he's just very gentle.
Yeah, he's gentle and he's very like grounded.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
he's very firm in his gentleness.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's cool. Yeah,
and then he like leaves. Right? He's not like, don't act like you're not alone. Don't act like you're not alone. Let me sit with you and we'll talk more. He's just like, he says that, but that doesn't mean that he needs to be the one that Charlie, you know, is spending his time with right now or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of he's putting the ball in Charlie's court, right? It's like, Charlie, you have to be the one to address this.
It's
right?
so
Nobody's
good.
going to do it for you.
It's so good.
It's really good. Yeah. Yeah, Naveen Andrews is really great. Saeed is just like, I think something we should do as a segment at some point is do like a tier ranking of the characters.
Oh, sure. We could do that at like end of season.
Yeah, I think that's a good time to do that. Yeah, for sure. All right, next scene. Sawyer and Kate, they're in the jungle and they find a pit of mud, but it's actually, Kate knows, the fucking wallow where the boars rub around in the mud or whatever. And then they find a baby boar.
Baby boar.
Baby boar, which is extremely cute. Very cute. I love pigs.
Mm-hmm.
They're adorable. Their little noses. But Sawyer, like, holds up the boar and is like, he starts, like, yelling and holding it up and being like, here, Peggy, 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 blah, I'm a jerk, or whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to, like, make the baby boar, like, scream so that the big one comes back.
And Kate gets all mad at him, which I thought was weird, actually.
Yeah, let's talk. Kate is basically like, hey, stop it, you fucking asshole. What are you doing? She, like, kicks him, and then, like, the little boar, the baby boar, runs away.
Well, yeah, and she even says something like, oh, you'll hurt it, or you're hurting it, or something.
She says, like, you're gonna hurt it.
Yeah, so, I mean, tell me how off base I am or whatever, but, like, they've been eating boar.
Yeah, okay, so this is a thing where, because neither of us eat meat, we have, I mean, some people who eat meat also have some sense of this, but, like, we have the clarity to see that it's the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, like, what? Kate, you're like, oh, you'll hurt the thing that I want Locke to go kill so I can have it for dinner? I was very... I think you're right. It has got to just be a thing where it's like, if you don't eat meat, you have a different perspective on it.
Yes, I think most people, when they see, like, a baby animal, their instinct is like, I don't want to hurt that creature. Like, it's a little creature who needs protection, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, like, logically consistent with their actions, but I think this is real. This is, like, how somebody would be.
It seemed funny to me.
I mean, yes. If you look at it from a moral perspective, it is funny, and makes no sense. But, like, I think that is, like, a real thing. Like, if you talk to people about, like, oh, somebody kicked a baby cow, they would be like, that's fucked up. Let me go eat my hamburger, or whatever, you know? So, sad realities about the world. What is cognitive dissonance? I've never heard of it. Yeah. Do you have more thoughts on that little thing?
No, it's a pretty short scene.
Yeah. And basically, then we cut to flashback. It's the pouring rain.
Some fucking drama. Like, drama land.
Yeah. And it's, like, great. It's, like, lit, like, super noir, like, this harsh lighting and shit. And, like, it's pouring rain. The shrimp guy takes a trash bag out to the dumpster, and then we see Sawyer get out of the car, right? He's walking through the mud, and then he just, like, shouts at the guy. He's like, hey, Sawyer! Because we know that Sawyer is, like, the name of the fucking guy who, you know, Sawyer took his name from the guy who conned his parents. He's like, hey, Sawyer! Dude turns around, and Sawyer just fucking shoots him.
Yeah, he does it. He pops him.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
I would say. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, he just, like, shoots this guy.
Yeah. Because even then, in the rain, holding his gun on him, you still don't know if he's going to fucking do it or not.
Yeah, it's, like, fucking sick. And it's, like, yeah, it's really well shot. Like, I think...
It's very dramatic, but not... Sometimes this show tries to be dramatic and just ends up funny. And it's not funny. It's just dramatic.
Yeah, and it's like, oh shit, Sawyer did this thing. So then Sawyer, like, goes up to this dying guy, right? And he's like, he takes out his revenge letter and he starts reading it. Dear Mr. Sawyer, you fucking conned my family and they're both dead. And the guy who got shot is like, what are you talking about?
He's just like, excuse me, I know I'm dying, but I'm very confused. What?
Yeah. And Sawyer is like, are you Sawyer? And this guy's like, I owe Sawyer money. I told him I would give him the money. And I love that they have this, like, confused conversation. With this dying guy, I think from his perspective, well, he doesn't really know what's happening, but he's like, am I getting killed because I owe Sawyer money or something?
No, he thinks he's getting, and he's right. He's getting killed because the guy who sent Sawyer after him, Higgs?
Yeah.
He owes Higgs money.
Oh, he owes Higgs money.
He says did Higgs send you? And then he says like, I would have paid him back. I would have paid Higgs back. I was going to get him the money.
That's so fucked up.
So yeah,
like, Higgs like got his ass. Like,
yeah, Higgs uses Sawyer as an unwitting hitman on this guy.
Yeah.
So, and it's so good because as this guy is dying, he's having a dramatic time, and Sawyer is having to process and deal with the fact that he just murdered somebody he has no connection to.
Yeah, just like some presumably innocent
guy. Yeah, that he has just absolutely no connection to whatsoever. He just murdered. And it's so like a dramatic time. They're both having a very dramatic time with each other.
Yeah. It's so fucking good. And it's honestly, it's a surprise. It's like a really twist that works.
Yeah. It's so
and
good.
I love, the pacing of it that Sawyer starts reading the letter and this guy's just like, huh?
Yeah, and the confusion doesn't play as comedy. It's good. It's really well done.
Yeah, it's fucking sick. And so, like, we're finally, like, seeing the full picture here of, like, Sawyer never got his revenge.
But he fucking tried.
Yeah.
He did his damnedest. Also, like, he pulled the trigger on his revenge. He just didn't happen to hit it.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, and the guy's dying words, his last words are like, it'll come back around.
Yep.
That's what Sawyer's been hearing in the whispers from the woods and shit. Back to the island. Sawyer spots the fucking boar. He slowly pulls the gun. He's aiming at the boar, and we see Kate is watching him. Sawyer is unaware of that, but Kate is watching him. And then Sawyer decides not to kill it. And, like, he puts the gun away. He looks over. He sees Kate looking at him, and he's like, it's just a boar. And that's the end of that plot, I think, basically. Yeah.
I like it. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a little bit of the meat thing on the mind again, where I'm like, okay, it's just a boar, so like don't kill it for revenge, but like don't you still want to kill it and get the meat? Like why aren't you pulling the trigger? Look at her, go, it's just a boar, and I'm fucking hungry, and then shoot it. Like that part seemed weird to me, of just like, I'm just gonna let this thing go. And I feel like it would have worked better if it was like, I don't know, an animal that wouldn't get you good meat or something.
If it was something that they hadn't already been killing regularly.
Yeah, maybe that too, where it's like, I still liked the episode a lot. I thought this was fine and good, and I liked it. But it didn't land with the whole, like, mercy and the revenge cycle thing as well. You're right, because it's like, you've already killed how many of these things?
Totally.
And this one arbitrarily gets to go because you're having a moment?
Yeah, like, it gets spared because you were projecting your fucking trauma onto it.
Yeah, it just, that bit didn't work the best for me, but it's fine.
Yeah, I also had, like, those same thoughts, just because of, like, it's like, wait, but you're shit.
There's
but
I get a plot line about them not killing enough boar, and people being like, why aren't you killing more boar, guys?
Totally. Yeah, I think that part is a little funny. I still think this, like, works. I think it, like, works as a conclusion.
Yeah, no, it does work. I agree.
But yeah, totally. I do get that. It's like Locke, just like immediately after the scene, Locke just like throws a knife at the boar or something.
That would be so funny. Is you don't even get that scene. You just get Locke coming in being like, we got more meat, guys.
Yeah, I found a boar.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be good.
So then we cut to the next scene, and it's Claire sitting on the beach, and we get a little shot here where we see the fucking raft.
Yeah, we see Michael building.
That Michael's been building.
Yeah, I like that we get that.
Yeah, it's reminding us that that's happening, and also, like, it's looking like a real-ass boat. Yeah, I gotta say.
The world is moving as we aren't focusing on those things. Those things are still churning along.
Yeah. This thing is looking like...
Yeah.
When he said raft, I was picturing, like, a flat thing of, like, bamboo.
Like a bunch of logs roped together.
Right, but he's made, like, pontoons and shit. It's, like, using parts of the plane and, like,
he
bamboo
was an architect.
Yeah, so it makes sense, you know? Sort of.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, boats are buildings.
Boats are buildings that just float.
Yeah.
Didn't you know that?
Yeah.
Like, buildings also need to be waterproof, so when it rains, there's no water in the building. So it's the same.
But actually, I mean, it kind of makes sense. There's some level of design there, yeah.
I mean, yeah, genuinely, I think it tracks well enough. Yeah, and so Claire is looking at this, and then Charlie comes over and is like, hey, you want to take that walk? And Claire smiles, and they go and do a little walk down the beach.
Oh, look at that satisfying resolution to a B plot that didn't get very much time, but was properly developed throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's also like a thing where last episode, like the actions that characters took had consequences for them.
Yeah.
Like Charlie actually had to kind of deal with the emotions of fucking killing a guy. I love that.
And even just the first scene with them being like, hey, want to walk? Nah, I gotta fuck you. Blah, blah, blah. And then him being at the end being like, let's go for a walk. Like, it's just nice. It brings it full circle. It's very good. It's a basic narrative tool that is well used.
Yeah. It's not, this subplot is not big or complicated, but just like each scene in it works.
Yeah.
Right. For the most part, the burying scene, a little whatever, a little iffy, but. And then we get the last scene in the episode. Sawyer comes out of the woods. Jack is like breaking wood for like firewood or something. I don't know. And Sawyer like points the gun at him and is like, stick him up. And Jack's like, is this a joke? Sawyer's like, yeah.
It's good. It's a good moment.
Yeah, and Jack is like completely not amused, like extremely unamused. Sawyer gives him the gun back, and Jack like reprimands him. He's like, you were supposed to give me this 2 days ago or whatever. But and then so something that happened when Sawyer was talking to Jack's dad is Jack's dad said something about like, that's why the Red Sox will never win the series because they're weak or they suck or they're committed to suffering or some shit, right?
Yeah, because some people are fated to suffer.
Yeah, and so then like Sawyer gives him the gun. And he said, I don't know, they have some exchange, and then Jack says the same thing. He's like, that's why the Red Sox will never win the series. Sawyer's like, what'd you say? What? Jack's like, oh, it's something my dad used to say. And basically, like, Sawyer realizes that he met Jack's dad. And Jack's like, why are you asking about my dad? And Sawyer's like, no reason. And that's the end of the episode.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I like the scene. I think it's cool. I think it's a nice way to... I think it's a Jack being, like, saying this phrase offhand that his dad said when he was a kid and stuff. It's a nice little, subtle, clever way to have Sawyer be like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's very, I feel like a lot of other times in this series, they would have been a lot clunkier, and it would have come off just feeling unnatural and weird, but it was very naturally done, satisfying, good stuff. Now Sawyer has some info, that's cool.
Yeah, and I like that Sawyer, to me, like, Sawyer's face at the end when he sort of realizes this, it's kind of thing where he's, like, putting those pieces together, and he's also, like, I feel like he's having the thought, like, that's really fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is super weird that I happened to, like, run into his dad.
Fun fact.
What's up?
This episode, so I don't know if you know this, right? The Red Sox had a curse on them and couldn't win the World Series, right?
Uh-huh.
And then they did. And
oh, shit.
They, just by happenstance, which is funny, they won the World Series for the first time in a very long time. I don't know how many years, but like 100-ish years.
Wow.
4 months before this episode aired. Like when it was written and shot,
they
hadn't
so
won in so long.
Fucking funny.
But yeah, by the time it aired, they actually just had.
But what's cool is that it works because they're on an island.
That's true. It's just
so,
like a weird little coincidence. Yeah.
That is such a weird coincidence. I also love, it's a complete coincidence, but I love that you can read some meta-narrative into that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. About like, yeah, Jack's dad is fucking wrong. Yeah. Like his perspective is wrong.
Yeah. That like literally, yeah.
That's so fucking funny. That's incredible, honestly. All right, that's the end of the episode. Overall, I mean, we said it a bunch of times,
great
but this
episode.
One was great. Yeah. So, okay, both the Sawyer episodes have been like probably the best 2 episodes.
Yeah. We talked about last episode how it was a bad episode and nothing really was that, it wasn't super terrible, but also nothing really worked that well. I'm really impressed about this episode with a few minor things that we talked about, like the burial scene or whatever. It worked. It wasn't, this episode was fine, and there were a few highlights that I really, really liked. Scene by scene, it worked.
Yeah, like
it was
basically
so consistently good.
And at worst, the scenes were like a little awkward or something.
Yeah,
there were no like parts where it was just like, this sucked or whatever.
Yeah, it was great. It was a very good episode.
Yeah, I hope this shit continues.
I'm not going to get my hopes up, but that would be cool.
Do you want to guess who the next episode
Hurley.
is about first? That's your call?
Yes.
Good guess, but no.
Oh.
Do you want to guess again?
Is it a repeat or no?
No.
It's going to be Jin.
Yes, yeah,
Nice.
because those are the two characters that we haven't had.
I was
guess,
trying to think in
Walt
my head,
hasn't
like,
had a flashback.
Walt? I mean, I
Yeah.
guess.
We got a Michael flashback, but we didn't get like a Walt flashback.
We're going to get him because he's got to have his weird, creepy Children of the Corn episodes.
Yeah, he's got to have the scene where like somebody looks at him and then like commits suicide or whatever.
Uh-huh.
We also haven't had a Shannon flashback.
Yeah?
I think that's all the. I mean, I guess Rose, but she's like
No,
not
Rose
a
does not
principal
count.
cast member.
No.
Yeah, she's showed up in like 3 episodes, maybe.
I'm glad we're getting a Jin flashback. I'm hoping that he will be a character soon that is in the show.
I think he will have to be, right? Because he's getting a flashback episode.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm saying not just for next episode, but I hope it helps kickstart, his involvement a bit.
For sure. I want him and Sun to like be involved in the story.
Yeah. I also hope it's not dreadfully racist.
Yeah, there were like some issues with that in the other one,
Mm-hmm.
in the one about Sun.
And Jin's honor and the House of the Rising Sun and yeah, there were some issues. That's Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So we're hoping for a good one. Yeah. Anything else you're hoping for next episode?
I'll just hope for minimal racism.
Minimal racism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm hoping for basically the same stuff. Basically, I'm hoping that Jin gets involved in the plot somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
We can find food. Peanuts. We can find food. What do you need? We can find food. Ocean goldfish. We can find food.
All right, so like we're a little more than halfway through the season. It's a good time to check in and see. Just check the temperature. How are we feeling about Lost?
I feel like it has potential that is often untapped and squandered. I found a lot of the ideas compelling and notions presented compelling. I find a lot of the execution lacking. And every once in a while, it will be distressing in the way it portrays issues such as race or drugs.
Totally.
But there are flashes of things that resonate with me in interesting ways, and I really, really like. So overall, I would say, okay.
Perfect.
Very inconsistent, like you said at the beginning. Like you said at the very, very beginning. It has high highs and it has very low lows.
Yeah.
It's much more that way than other shows, which I think I would say are okay, because they are simply fine throughout. This really has peaks and valleys.
Yeah, like sometimes extremely stupid and bad things happen in the show. Yeah, I'm finding myself like everything is, totally inconsistent. There's some high highs and low lows. I will say like I have a broad fondness for the cast of characters, despite how there's like inconsistencies with them, despite how a lot of the characters, Michael, are like not handled super well. Overall, I'm like, I like these characters and I want the show to like do them justice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's, like what you said, there's like a lot of potential that is often untapped or kind of like fucked up.
Yeah. How does it compare to your recollection of it so far?
Yeah. So me watching season 1, I was like in middle school or high school, 2004, but it was a bit after because I watched it on DVD. My brother showed it to me. And this was my first binge watching experience. It was basically I blasted through season 1. And so in my recollection, I'm like, yeah, season 1 was one of the good seasons, you know? But it's interesting seeing that it's pretty fucking inconsistent.
And I think that makes sense because when you're binge watching it like that Kate and Sawyer episode kind of might just get lost in the middle rather than like being a distinct experience.
Right.
If you have a really bad episode, it's like, oh yeah, that bad part happened, instead of like, oh yeah, that whole thing sucked.
Right. That week was not good. As opposed to just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think binge watching it makes a lot of the mysteries feel like they move at a faster pace. Like, for instance, we have not seen the hatch.
We have not seen the hatch
for a second.
Like, that is an issue. I think it's legitimately an issue at this point. They should not have introduced the hatch when they did, if they weren't going to get around to it by now at all.
Yeah, what's your feeling on the different mysteries we have on the island? Let's go through them and see which ones are you like hoping get some answers by the end of this season. Keeping in mind there are 6 seasons of this show.
Okay.
I'll hit you with some mysteries. All right. Mystery 1, we were just talking about it, the hatch. How are you feeling about it?
I've talked about this before. I was pretty hype about the hatch and interested in the hatch, and it is really, that hype and interest is bleeding away. I kind of, at this moment, I don't know, who knows? Maybe when they get back to the hatch, I'll start caring. Maybe I will. But at this moment, I'm not that interested in the hatch, because if it was that interesting, we'd be seeing what Locke is doing around it instead of literally not. So
Totes.
I'm just
okay, good hatch check-in. Do you have other hatch thoughts?
They shouldn't have introduced it. I don't mind them going slow with it or taking a while to reveal it, but they shouldn't have thrown the beginning of it and then abandoned it. Even if it's just Locke working at it as a problem, we don't even know if that's what's happening. I don't mind a slow burn, but a refusal to check in with it makes it not feel like a slow burn. It makes it feel like it is forgotten or unimportant.
Totally. Next mystery, that's a pretty big one, I guess. It's kind of a mystery. What's the deal with the monster?
I like the monster. I don't feel the need for the mystery to be resolved. I feel like I talked about this a bit at the very, very beginning, maybe even in the pilot. I'm content and happy for it to basically remain as it is in perpetuity.
Just like it's a monster in the jungle.
It's a weird thing. French woman doesn't think it's a monster, I guess. And Locke, it seems cool with it, kind of. I don't know. It's weird. I like feeling weird about it. And that when you go into the jungle, something weird might happen to you.
Totally. Yeah, okay, so we're feeling pretty solid about where that's at. We're not feeling like that needs to go a particular place or whatever, or needs a particular resolution. What are the other mysteries? What about Polar Bear?
Don't give a single fuck about Polar Bear.
Yeah, okay, that's a good place to be with that one.
There's the French woman stuff about just like her maps and the black rock and all of that stuff.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm interested in that. And that one feels better to me as a slow burn because over the course of time, we have seen Saeed and others working on it in their spare time and trying to push forward on it. And I think that I am interested in that. I don't feel a pressing need to know anything about it, but I'm interested.
Yeah, I think that one's going at a good pace because, like, it's not a thing where it's like, why aren't you fucking dealing with
exactly.
This pressing thing?
It's
just like,
Saeed didn't
that's interesting and weird.
Saeed didn't just bury the map and go, maybe I'll deal with that later. Like, he is working on
it. I'm being Leonardo and staring at the marble with the map.
Yeah.
He's like, no, that's interesting. We have some idea of how this works, whatever. Mystery. Oh, the whispers in the jungle?
Yeah, that's cool. I'm interested.
Yeah. Do you feel like you want an answer? Like, what are the whispers?
I'm kind of afraid of answers because answers turn something from you can assume that it's cool into not cool really quick.
Interesting. We're afraid of answers. That's interesting.
I mean, that's also, I don't know specific plot points or specific mystery resolutions within Lost, but I do know that there's a general dissatisfaction with the resolution of mysteries. I'm aware of that.
For sure. I mean, I will say there's 6 fucking seasons of this show. That means there's going to be a lot more mysteries.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's universal that all of the mysteries have bad resolutions. I think some of them have cool answers.
Okay.
So just to let you know, to keep you on your toes, right? Some of the mysteries are going to have shit ass resolutions and some of them are going to be cool.
I just also don't trust J.J. Abrams, like, at all. Because I've seen other examples of his work that I think are very poor.
What, like Ray Palpatine?
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
No, I've still never seen the last Star Wars. But
what is it called? Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker. But I know about it, and I know about his little weird-ass hissy fit about the middle one, and... Yeah. I know enough that I'm skeptical wherever he is concerned.
Okay, let's see. Did we do all the mysteries?
I don't know. I can't keep track of all these mysteries.
There's also like there's a bunch of like weird ones that that are like not even like there's like the compass points in a weird direction.
There's time distortion weirdness somehow. I think all
Yeah,
those are interesting.
Jack saw his dad at one point, but was that?
I like the
whatever,
island weirdness. I like all that vibe.
Yeah, I like that there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of weird
Mhm.
and is like, I don't know, mysterious, maybe real, maybe in characters' heads.
Yeah.
All that stuff, I think. I would be happy if it just stayed like that the whole time.
No, that's kind of how I feel about the monster, right? It's just let it be there as a backdrop for our characters to have interesting things to react to.
Right. When the characters are in a haunted house, we don't need to know all of the story. I guess like a lot of haunted house stories, you do learn about why it's haunted.
It comes back to, I think, and this is my perspective, it's not authoritative or anything, right? But great works of art, mostly for me, are about characters and not plot. Plot is important. Mysteries are important. The mechanics of why did this happen isn't the interesting part of a story. The interesting part of the story is the character and what they've gone through and how it's impacted them and all of those things. Like Lord of the Rings, you can say this about so many things, right? Lord of the Rings is about destroying the evil ring, right?
Right.
But that's not really where the value of that story is that the ring was destroyed at the end.
Yeah, it's not like, God, I'm glad they destroyed that ring.
Yeah.
That's not like the emotion that you're left with.
Yeah, it's
end,
about
right?
all of these characters and what they've been through and how they experienced that and handled it with each other.
Yeah,
and
their
all those
defeats,
things.
their triumphs, the way that they bond with each other.
And I think that that's what I'm afraid of this show in particular losing track of, is that all of these things are tools to show off your characters and use these things in that way rather than using your characters in service of a plot or a mystery. That I am worried about.
I won't say that fear is unwarranted.
Yeah.
I will say something, this thus far in the show, even when it misses, it feels like the episodes are trying to focus on character, right?
I agree.
Even
I
when
agree.
like the character, they kind of fuck it up or the story's not that good or like it doesn't work. It's still like each episode is solidly like it's about this character and a particular emotional journey they're going on.
I agree. I'm just afraid. That's all.
Yeah, totally. Was there one other mystery? Oh yeah, here's a mystery. What's the deal with Ethan Rom?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just assume that there's a group that he comes from a group and that he's not solo.
Interesting.
And
why do you assume that?
I don't know, because it makes sense.
All right.
And I just also feels like the obvious thing to do when you're lost on an island is to discover another group that whatever. And there might have been some vibes I got off the French woman about others or something.
I think she did literally say there are other people on the island. And Saeed was like, have you seen them? And she was like, no, I've heard them though.
Yeah, and then you get the whispers, so maybe it's about that. But yeah, so I do assume that.
Yeah.
That's another one where I'm not in a rush to be like, I need answers. I'm kind of just like, I assume that it'll dig into that when it feels like it.
Totally. I think that's all the major mysteries that we have so far.
I hope we missed a really obvious one. I don't think we did, but I hope we did.
Because you're like hoping that there's some cool thing that we forgot about?
No, I just think it would make us look very stupid to have missed like the biggest mystery, I think
that'd be sick.
Us looking very dumb is good.
Hell yeah. Love that. Love that spirit. Well, any other thoughts before we conclude?
No. Great episode. Wonderful episode.
Yeah. Good job, show.
Uh-huh.
Let's hope that they can keep it up. All right. That was the Long Lost Podcast. You can find us on the wherever. And we'll see y'all next time for Season 1, Episode 17, In Translation. Hell yeah.
Yeah.